A suspect is in custody after a standoff in Norman. We have the details. And a Ground Zero dog sniffs out the suspect accused of shooting a Cleveland County deputy, the latest on the nearly week-long manhunt.
Coming up on Saturday, we'll have a solar eclipse, and I'll let you know whether skies will be favorable for viewing. This is OU Nightly.
Thanks for watching OU Nightly. I'm Marilyn Fitzer.
And I'm Morgan Martin. We begin tonight with breaking news right here in Norman. Norman police say they arrested one person during a standoff just a few hours ago. It happened at a home near Lindsay and 24th Avenue Southeast. Officers say the suspect was involved in an assault with a firearm before barricading himself inside the home. Norman public schools in the area were on lockdown for a short time. Officers say one person was injured but is expected to be okay.
After almost a week-long manhunt, fugitive Cameron Jenkins was found dead on Tuesday. His body was hidden under a lot of brush and rubble. Reporter Addison Arthur gives us an in-depth look into how law enforcement found his body.
No leads, no phone calls, just silence and fear in the small town of Wynnewood, Oklahoma. It had been almost a week and the manhunt was still on for Cameron Jenkins. On day 6 of the hunt, task force brought in cadaver dogs from Ground Zero Training Center in Tuttle to help.
We were just 2 resources out of hundreds of law enforcement officers within the state that were out there for a week. We were called in as a resource for the OHP.
And a huge resource they were. Within an hour and 20 minutes, one of Ground Zero's canines came across the suspect's body, a dog named Ace. A huge part in this manhunt and a hero to the town of Wynnewood.
The human remains detection dog is only trained for the scent of a decomposing body. So once somebody is deceased, that chemical composition in their body starts changing. So the dog picks up on that odor.
And once the dog picks up on the odor, he gives the signal. Just like that, to let everyone know he found what they had been searching for. And once the job is done, Ace was happy to receive his paycheck.
Because there's a couple of different things the dogs are working for. Their paycheck is their toy or that interaction with a handler. So the stronger that bond, the more you can ask to that dog and the more the dog will do for the love of the handler.
Ground Zero emergency canine training started here in Oklahoma in 2017 by legendary Oklahoma football coach Barry Switzer and his wife, Becky, with their mission to help in times of need and offer a resource locally and nationwide. Wynnewood is relieved that Ace accomplished his mission. Addison Arthur, OU Nightly.
How Cameron Jenkins died is still under investigation, but we will keep you updated right here when we have more on that. And there are a couple of allergens out there today that may be aggravating allergy symptoms for you.
OU Nightly meteorologist Braden Seo joins us live in studio with the first look at the allergy index. Braden, what can you tell us?
Yeah, ladies, especially with that wind we've been seeing out there, it is kicking up a few allergens out there, especially weeds and the mold spores. That is both on the higher side. Tree and grass pollen are both kind of in the medium category, not as high as we were looking at last week, so a bit of relief coming. And then we see cooler temperatures across the state, except for the western part of the state, 90s and some 80s out that way. But coming up later in the show, I'll talk about the cold front plus fire danger out west and your solar eclipse forecast. Back to you.
And Will Rogers security at standstill earlier today after authorities found inactive hand grenades in one passenger's bag. The hand grenades date back to World War II and were heavily examined by TSA bomb techs and dogs. The traveler eventually took custody of the grenades and rebooked his flight.
And Oklahoma County is set to receive nearly $150,000 thanks to a settlement from the makers of Juul vapes. The county sued the makers of the nicotine device because of its harmful side effects and questionable marketing techniques. County leaders are hoping to put the funds towards health care at the new jail, as well as helping for those suffering from the health impacts of vaping.
We turn now to the struggle in the United States House to find stability as the Speaker of the House seat remains vacant. OU Nightly's Kevin Palomino is at the Capitol with the latest.
We were able to speak with some members of the Oklahoma delegation, such as Representative Josh Burkeen, who is still supporting Representative Jim Jordan from Ohio. He has been endorsed by Donald former President Donald Trump. We were also able to speak with Representative Tom Cole, who at the beginning of all of this was a potential candidate for Speaker. He has said that he is still not running. When Gaylord News approached him and asked him about it, we were also able to speak with Representative Kevin Hern about what he believes is the next step for his political party. We were able to speak with him more on this. Take a look.
Well, I think you're seeing the desire in America, or in the conference, to have a different direction of what they have said they wanted. And there's a feel that, by some has stated, that just promoting everybody, moving everybody up one position is not going to change that direction.
We also approached Representative Stephanie Bice for comment, but she did not want to speak with members of the press. The House Republicans have recessed, and there is no clear indication on when they will be coming back to discuss this further. Reporting for Gaylord News in Washington, D.C., Kevin Palomino.
Scalise must now get most of his members of his caucus to vote for him on the House floor. Many Republicans have indicted they want to avoid the drama that unfolded during the last vote when it took McCarthy 15 ballots to get elected.
Many members of Congress keeping a close eye on Israel, and tonight we know the death toll there continues to rise as the war with terrorist group Hamas continues. OU Nightly's Emery Johnson has that and the rest of today's national and international headlines from the News Center.
This just into the newsroom. Officials say at least 27 Americans have been killed in the war with Israel. Israel's senior advisor Mark Regev is now warning Hamas terrorists of the consequences if they do not release at least 100 hostages. He says there will be justice to pay if any harm comes to them. Regev says that he wants to make it clear that the act is seen by all of the international community as unacceptable. President Joe Biden announces a new proposal from the Federal Trade Commission that would ban businesses from charging misleading or hidden fees when purchasing online. The new rules do not have control over what businesses can charge for products, but it does require full transparency on prices. The UN says 90% of those killed in the Afghanistan earthquake are women and children. Officials say people first thought the earthquake was an explosion, causing them to run into their homes. The earthquake then caused the houses to collapse on top of them. The United Nations Children's Fund has launched an appeal for $20 million to help those affected. And a group from Sunnyside Baptist Church in Tennessee makes it safely back home after taking a trip to Jerusalem. Morgan, Ireland, back to you.
Thank you, Emery. And when OU Nightly returns, an update on overdose deaths in the U.S.
What experts are saying about the increase.
And some medications are being recalled from Family Dollar stores.
Which medications to keep an eye out after this. As we inch closer to flu and COVID season, doctors say less Americans are getting updated vaccinations. Darian Curry has that and more in today's Health Beat.
Heading into the winter months, only 7 million Americans have received the latest COVID-19 vaccine. Both the CDC and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services say that's compared to 18 million people who received an updated shot last year. Experts say the latest vaccine is more of a new immunization than a booster shot. And the number of drug-related overdose deaths in the U.S. continue to rise. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention says more than 112,000 Americans died from an overdose within a 12-month period. That is a 2,700 increase compared to the same time period last year. Family Dollar is recalling a huge amount of over-the-counter medications. The company says they are recalling some medications because they were stored outside of temperature requirements. Recalled products include cold medicine, vitamins, toothpaste, and children's medicine. The company says the products were shipped to 23 states and sold between June 1st and October 4th. Family Dollar says the customers can return the recalled medications without a receipt. And a Wisconsin man is using wooden puzzles to fight dementia and extend his lifespan. Ireland, Morgan?
Thank you, Darian. When we come back, OU's esports team is expanding.
And when players could soon benefit from NIL deals coming up.
And on Saturday, we'll have a solar eclipse. I'll let you know whether or not skies will be clear coming up on OU Nightly. Welcome back to OU Nightly, and here's a look at the eclipse we're going to have on Saturday. And you can see here in Norman, we'll be within that 70 to 80% coverage range, so we're not going to be seeing the full eclipse like they will here from a swath stretching from the Pacific Northwest down through Texas, but we still will be able to see pretty good amount of coverage with this. And what kind of eclipse is this? This is an annular eclipse, meaning that there is still a slight ring around the sun with this kind of eclipse. And then coming up in April of 2024, that's when we'll have a total solar eclipse across portions of Oklahoma. Now, looking at the current temperatures outside right now, we've got temperatures in the 70s here in the Oklahoma City metro, and then some 80s out towards western Oklahoma, approaching 90 in Elk City. So definitely still feeling a bit warm out there. And then across the southern plains, we've got fairly nice spread of temperatures from the 80s down here into Texas, and then 70s into Oklahoma, and some 60s even out towards Missouri. Now, the drought monitor is still an issue because we have an expanding area of extreme drought here across portions of southern Oklahoma and still that swath up into portions of northern Oklahoma. But Futurecast does provide some relief for some areas, especially towards the Tulsa metro, before that cold front pushes through. And then you can see all of that activity pushes out of the state as we head into the afternoon on Friday. And now with this cold front means we'll be lowering that humidity as well. You can see it pushes out that deeper humidity as we head into the day tomorrow. And that will lead to the threat of some fire danger. And so that's why we've got this elevated risk out here in the Panhandle for tomorrow that expands eastward through the day on Friday, with even adding a critical risk over here towards Guymon. And that's why we have these red flag warnings here for Guymon, Woodward, and all of those counties up in northwestern Oklahoma. Now, lows tonight will dip down into this around 60 here in the metro, getting into those 40s up in northwest Oklahoma as that front pushes through. And you can see that difference tomorrow after the front pushes through. We'll be topping out in the 60s for much of us across the northern half of the state, 70s confined down to the Red River Valley. And now the 7-day forecast shows that tomorrow we'll have quite the windy day, much like we did today, 20 to 30 mile per hour winds with some higher gusts possible. And then sunny skies through the weekend after that cold front pushes through. And that continues into next week before a new storm system could provide us with an additional chance for rain coming up next Thursday.
And so I know there are a lot of events coming up in Norman and OKC. Is there anything that we need to bring because of the cool down, or maybe like an umbrella? Or
Well, it'll be cooler in the mornings, probably in the 40s. So you'll want a light jacket if it's earlier in the day, but should warm into the 60s in the afternoon.
Absolutely. I know those cooler temperatures will be a nice break from the heat for everyone getting out and about this weekend. Thank you, Braden.
Thank you.
And one of the fastest growing industries in the United States is also growing rapidly here on campus, esports. OU Nightly's Blake Mullen has more.
Hey man, I'm just that guy.
From competing in their dorms to having their own facilities, University of Oklahoma esports has grown to unbelievable heights over the past few years. Since its creation in 2017, Oklahoma esports has grown from 0 members to over 3,400 in its Discord server today. In addition to that, they have multiple facilities to compete in and have teams in 18 gaming titles. Esports Communities and Lab Coordinator Jacob Ross says the growth has been unreal.
It's like everybody is much more enthusiastic about the growth of it, so people are contributing more. There's more people at events every single year. You know, we have an annual back to school event, and over the past 3-4 years, even before I was here, the numbers of people coming every weekend is just increasing significantly. Like, it's unreal.
Like other sports, NIL is continuing to grow in esports as well. Sooners esports assistant community coordinator Jack Boyd says he sees NIL becoming more common in esports over the next few years.
A few years from now, I think it's definitely going to pop up a lot more because these companies are going to realize, hey, we can start sponsoring these players that are doing really good, they're winning, and we can associate our names with victories, winnings, and college growth with these students that are coming up. So I think the NIL deals are going to be a huge thing, especially in the esports section in these next few years.
As esports continue to grow across the United States, it's safe to assume NIL deals will become more and more frequent for its competitors. From the University of Oklahoma, Blake Mullen, OU Nightly.
To learn more about the esports program, you can visit their official website at the university's admissions and recruitment page. And the battle for the Red River takes place on the pitch tonight.
And OU volleyball has a thriller at McCaslin Fieldhouse. Stone Weber has the details.
OU football receives a commitment from an unlikely destination, and Sooners softball is back in action at Marita Hines Field. We'll have the highlights next in sports. I'm Stone Weber, and it's time for sports. Last night, OU softball kicked off their battle series, a series of inter-squad scrimmages with a thriller. Team 2 finished on top with help from Cassidy Pickering, who launched this 2-run shot. Pickering is one of 8 newcomers on the team. You can see in action at OU's next game on Monday as the Sooners take on North Central Texas College at 6 p.m. Moving to the hardwood, OU volleyball hosted TCU last night, and this one went down to the wire. The Sooners won the first 2 sets, then lost the third and fourth sets 29-27 and 25-23 before ultimately losing the fifth and final set 15-13. OU is now 0-6 in conference play and travels to Lawrence this Saturday to face the Kansas Jayhawks. In OU soccer, they're winless in their last 4 games, but tonight they have a Red River rivalry matchup against the Texas Longhorns. The Longhorns are 4-2-1 on the season, but if the Sooners were to win, it would be their first win in Norman against the Longhorns since 2005. OU is currently 10th in the Big 12, and the top 10 teams qualify for the conference tournament in Round Rock, Texas. And the Sooners are on a bye week this week, but Brent Venables is still winning on the recruiting trail. Today, the Sooners earned a commitment from 2024 offensive tackle Daniel Akinkunmi, who is from London, England. He is ranked as the #1 international player in 2024. And speaking of Brent Venables, he's confident in his team's culture.
Build a program on that. And what is that? That's mindset, attitude, physicality, toughness, spot the ball at the one, and we'll put everything on who we are from a DNA standpoint, a standard standpoint on that series right there. And you don't give them an inch. You don't concede anything.
Week 6 of the NFL season kicks off tonight with an AFC West matchup full of Sooners. As the Denver Broncos head to Arrowhead to take on the Kansas City Chiefs, the Chiefs are on a 4-game winning streak while the Broncos are looking for their first win against the Chiefs since 2015. Major League Baseball's ALCS is set, and it is a Lone Star showdown between the Houston Astros and the Texas Rangers. The Astros are in the ALCS for the 7th year in a row, and for the Rangers, it is their first appearance since 2011. Coming off of a Western Conference Final appearance, the Dallas Stars start their season tonight as they welcome the St. Louis Blues to the American Airlines Center. Ireland, Morgan, back to you.
Thank you, Stone. And coming up on OU Nightly, row, row, row your pumpkin.
Details on one man's unusual way of getting around on the water next on OU Nightly.
I'm Colson Pocock at the OU Nightly Update Desk. A driver is in custody after Enid police say he hit an Enid public school crossing guard who had to be medi-flighted to OU Health due to severe head trauma. Police say Roberto Cruz Lopez claims he didn't see the crossing guard, Daniel Lesky, because the sun was in his eyes. Lopez has been arrested on several complaints, including causing an accident without a valid driver's license. Ireland, Morgan, back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Colson. And some carve pumpkins, some paint them. Now others, they paddle them through water. One Missouri man broke a world record for the longest journey by pumpkin boat.
The carved out pumpkin was 1,200 pounds and was just big enough for him to fit in. 11 hours and 39 miles later, he made it ashore in Napoleon, Missouri.
And with the size of this pumpkin, they had to use a pontoon boat to sink that vessel.
Morgan, I want to know what gave the man the idea to use a pumpkin as a vessel.
I can't say that thought has ever crossed my mind.
Yeah.
And some relief to the heat is on the way this evening, bringing cooler temperatures.
OU Nightly meteorologist Braden Seo joins us with one last look at the timeline for temperatures this evening. Braden?
The cold front coming through tonight will help us dip down into those upper 50s, and then we rise back up into the 60s around the 70-degree mark tomorrow before we dip down even into those upper 40s as we head into Saturday morning. So definitely feeling like fall now. And you can see those morning lows will still be very cool heading into the beginning of next week. We're talking about lows in the 40s with highs in the 60s, warming back up as we head into next week before our next storm system brings us a chance for rain by the end of next week. Morgan, Ireland.
Thank you, Braden, and thank you for watching OU Nightly. I'm Morgan Martin.
And I'm Ireland Fitzer. Be sure to join us weekdays live at 4:30. Good night.